Hello guys, I hope you're doing alright. It's Theo here, host of the Conquering Dyslexia podcast, and I'm here with another episode. Now, I'm very excited for this episode. This episode is about the science of conquering your dyslexia, the very most basic and fundamental steps people use to overcome their dyslexia, people use to conquer their dyslexia, people use to turn this thing that can be a negative into some sort of advantage or to cope in the world without having it hold us back. And the very basic science behind this fundamental steps on how to do that. And I'm very looking forward to explaining that here. But I'm so looking forward to explaining it. And please, guys, obviously share this, subscribe this, send this out to people. To make sure, get out to people who do it. And I love seeing your comments about how this work has touched your lives, or the breakthroughs you had. It really makes my day when I see those. So yeah, guys, I hope we enjoy today's episode. So the big question is this: how can dyslexics like us create a place, a community, a tribe where people at any stage of life can come and solve any challenge, amplify their strengths, and ultimately help them become who they were meant to be, or in other words, conquer their dyslexia? That is the question, and this show is the answer. My name's Theo Goff, and welcome to the Conquering Dyslexia podcast. Hello guys, I'm very excited to speak to you today about the steps to overcome your dyslexia and the fundamental steps. We break it down, and the fundamental steps everyone basically uses and everyone does, and we have to become very conscious of these and very aware of these to know where we're at in these steps, and to know where a lot of people can trip up or misunderstand, and it gets them lost or frustrated for a while in this journey of conquering, or in this journey of overcoming our dyslexia. I'm very excited to chat to you this today, and earlier today I was writing it down, and I got really passionate about this, and making things very simple, because so much, especially in this world of labeling, special needs, all these other things, that people can make things so much more complex than it needs to be. I can sit here, explain dyslexia, neurologically, and how these complex things happen, and how the brain's different, and all different sizes, and how it operates differently, and loads of complex words and complex names. But yeah, it doesn't really help you. It doesn't really make you learn something in order to use it, because simplicity, complexity is the enemy of execution. That's a saying that Tony Robbins used to say to me over and over again. Complexity is the enemy of execution. If you want to do something, if you want to learn something, make it stupidly simple. And the way us creators, when I say creators, we're obsessed with helping other people on something. We learn so much about it. We take all this information in, and then we break it down in a lot simpler way to explain to other people can understand. So my goal is to figure out, loads of people who have overcame their dyslexia or conquered their dyslexia, what have they done, and what's the basic steps? Fundamental steps, yes, it's all that you get even complex, but also basic, fundamental, core things that people have to do in order to overcome their dyslexia. At the very base level, there's three things. There's three steps that I want to talk about here that people with dyslexia must do. They cannot skip over these steps. And you probably are doing one, you probably are doing two, maybe you might be doing all three, but yet still not getting what you want, still finding dyslexia is a massive struggle for you in your life. And we'll definitely get to why that is. Why can it be still struggle to you, even though you're doing everything you think you can to overcome this, to solve these challenges you're facing? So it all starts with, I remember learning about my dyslexia and figuring out, dyslexia is when the cross hemispheres mixed up in the brain, and all these people said, dyslexia is a gift. Albert Einstein is dyslexic. All these different things. You can see things in pictures. You can see things in colours. You can see things 3D. It's wow, this is so You mean like, okay, this is good in theory, but how do I use this? How do I use this to, you mean pass my test? How do I use this to do this? How do I use it to do that? And how do I apply what people tell me what my dyslexia is? And what I end up doing over time is that, okay, there's these, you mean we first off have to understand what our dyslexia is, and that's step number one. And these are very core fundamental. First off, find out what dyslexia is now. I do not care about what a textbook definition of dyslexia is. I don't care about the signs and the symptoms of dyslexia in the textbook dynamic. In order for ourselves, this is all about us. I care loads, you mean, about helping, helping our children with dyslexia, but my main motivation is to help you, and you to help yourself. So we have to figure out, okay, how does it affect us? How is our dyslexia personally affecting ourselves? I have to decide that, okay, how is it affecting ourselves? Someone's singing upstairs. Anyway, how is it affecting, I'm in a hotel, by the way. So how is it affecting, sorry, just get it out of the way. I'm in a hotel in Bangkok. I'm traveling to a new place to teach. I'm teaching English, sidetrack. So there may be weird noises. I might get distracted. But anyway, it's about how do we help ourselves? And it's figure out our own dyslexia, because dyslexia is a massive range. It's like an umbrella of all these different spectrums, all these different, things. Okay, how is dyslexia for ourselves? We figure out, okay, what our weaknesses and also what our strengths. And we spend equal time figuring out the both. Okay, what are our strengths? What are we actually good at that other people aren't as good at? Like visualized thinking, at talking, at selling, at creating something, at figuring out problems, at being resilient. What are we actually good at? And also, what are we actually bad at? That's the first step. And that's what I've become really, really aware on my own journey of, overcoming our dyslexia. Because I remember, one thing was being here. So I do these steps all the time. We have to be consistently doing these. Coming here, to be teaching English. I remember doing a online course at TEFL, so I could teach other kids English. I was like, okay, here's how you teach English. Here's a lesson plan. So make your own lesson plan. Okay, what are my weaknesses? Typing. Grammar. What are my strengths? My strengths are, I'm very good at talking. I'm very good at coming up with ideas. I'm very good at thinking on the spot. Okay, so I'm good at coming up with ideas, good at thinking on the spot. Okay, how can I apply that into my work? Okay, let's make some really fun, energetic lessons. But I know my weakness is typing. So, okay, that's a weakness. And so I had someone else spell check my work. So I had a weakness and I have a solution to those weaknesses. Have a strength when you find out how we can use that strength more. As well as I know my non-weaknesses is writing on the board. 1, spelling, and 2, handwriting. I've got very bad handwriting. How do I find solutions to that? Okay, print off things so I can write it on the board. Okay, have the spellings out for me and write it very, very slowly on the board. Take my time. Explain it. It's okay to make mistakes. So I have this weakness and I have a solution and I have ways around it. So step 1, know yourself. Know your weaknesses and know your strengths. And I did that. I knew my weaknesses and knew my strengths. But also I was speaking about step 2. Step 2 is know what the environment needs. For example, I know what the environment expects me to write on the board. The environment expects me to expects me to create lesson plans. The environment expects me to mark other people's work. The environment of being a teacher, it's just being a teacher, but this works for all other circumstances. The environment being a teacher expects me to mark people's work, have good spelling, have good grammar, have good punctuation, correct mistakes, classroom manage, speaking, teaching, presenting. All these expectations the environment expects of me. And that's true, whatever work you're in, whatever job you're in. It doesn't have to be an actual job, it could be a parent, it could be this, whatever role you're in, you have to understand, okay, what does that expect of you? If you're creating PowerPoints, if you're creating presentations, if you're doing spreadsheets, what's expected of you? And figure out, in those expectations, what are your weaknesses and what are your strengths? How we can best apply those to the expectations, to the job, to the role. Okay, and now here's the very important part. So step 1, let me clarify this because it's such crystal clear. This is the whole game, guys. There's loads of information about that, but I'm talking about how you can help yourself. There's only 3 fundamental steps to it. And then later, there could be a reason why people may trip up. So first one is understand yourself, understand dyslexia, but understanding you as an individual. This can take a while. But yes, you read, learning a lot about dyslexia, but also psychoanalyze yourself. Do tests. So you do your cognitive profile test. Do a test to see what you're good at, what you're not good at, and to actually see where your strengths are. And also when your weaknesses. Then understanding the environment. Write down, okay, what does your environment expect of you? And when will your weaknesses apply in that environment? Your weaknesses of writing, or remembering information, remembering lists, or whatever. When all the things that you fall down upon, or trip up, and when will your strengths be? How could you use your strength from creative thinking, or thinking fast, or talking, or coming up with ideas? How could you use your strengths in that environment? And then, once you know that, once you know what the environment expects of you, you know what to expect of yourself, you have to do the third thing. How can you solve your weaknesses? And there's three ways to solve weaknesses. Either you work around them, which is 80% of solutions, you work around the problem. You get someone else to help you, you have an app, you have a corrective software, you have something like that, like Grammarly, to help you go around the problem. That's like 80%, you can solve it yourself. That's like 15% of the problems. You actually find it hard to create presentations. You learn how to create good ones. You find it hard to talk to people. You learn how to talk to people. You find it hard with grammar. You find it hard with spelling. You actually learn how to spell correctly. That's only 15% of the solution. 50% of all the solutions we can do. And 5% of the things we'll solve is we change our view on it. Yes, it's bad, like it's a rainy day. We can't change the fact it's a rainy day. We have to try and change our mindset on it so it doesn't make us miserable, make us laugh, make us giggle. So that's a little thing what we can do with our problems, but we have to be obsessed on solving them, and also how we can maximize our strengths. Because I spoke about before how your strengths, if you just keep working on your strengths at a certain level, people will ignore your weaknesses because your strengths are so good, people don't care. So that's about it. And so that's the three fundamental steps, of very, very basic steps of how you can overcome your dyslexia. And I said talking about this, as you can probably tell, guys, I'm very excited about talking about this, so I wrote it down earlier. This is so simple, this is so clear. But also, here's what people don't understand. And here's the most important part, because people can understand it, people can get it. And you may be doing it, and you're like, okay, Theo, I'm doing all the things you said, but why isn't it working? Why do I keep trying and failing? Why do I keep trying at work, trying at this, come up with all these solutions, but it keeps failing? And the reason why is because we are human beings. We ain't robots. We ain't a 1 + 1 = 2 machine. We are emotional creatures. And like I said before, you have to understand something so critical about dyslexia. The worst thing about dyslexia is not dyslexia itself. It's what you believe about it, what it makes you believe about yourself. So if you believe you're dumb, you won't work for the thing. If you believe you can't do this, you believe you can't do that, you won't do that thing. If you believe you can, if you believe you can't, you are both right. Okay, so this is so powerful. So we have to deal with the other side, which is our emotional side of things. So in order to deal with these, there's three fundamental steps, very similar to the three basic steps to overcome something. Is that these three steps, we have to first, one, realize what's stopping us is, okay, our beliefs, and take responsibility over them. Number two, identify them and realize how they aren't true. And over here, I'm not going in depth because it's only like you're in 10-15 minute talk here. But realize how these beliefs, or how these assumptions we made up about ourselves aren't true about our dyslexia, about believing we're dumb, stupid, this, that. And they all happen from experiences that happened in us in the past. And we grew up believing, oh, we can't do this, or we're this sort of person. And here in step two, we have to realize that the past doesn't equal the future. They have these negative beliefs. You have to identify them and realize the past doesn't equal the future. Just because you believe those in the past, and just doesn't mean that that same thing will happen. Doesn't mean that you're this type of person. And then step number three, trade, or basically change those negative, stupid, false beliefs that we have into new, more accurate, empowering ones. And you do that by fully understanding your dyslexia and fully understanding yourself, and how sometimes we can be harsh on ourselves, and how the environment is harsh on us, and that makes us create assumptions on ourselves that aren't true. That basically keeps us from fear. If we fail at something 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and create a belief saying we can't do that because we're dumb, in a sense that can protect us from those with pain. But I'm saying you don't want to not do something because you might fail at it. It's how you can change your beliefs to empower you. So when you actually fail in the future, you can learn from it and move forward and get smarter and get better. That person's singing again. So anyway, I really wanted to clarify that. Probably tell I'm really passionate about this. So you can see that very basically is how to overcome your dyslexia. 3 simple steps. Know yourself at a very deep level. Know what the environment expects upon you, and solve your and find solutions to your problems and how to use your strengths as much as you can. But the reason why that's not the only 3 steps is because we're human beings, because we have emotional baggage and negative beliefs of who we are, and we have to really deal with that first before we do with everything else. Because if you're trying to solve the problem without actually fixing what the real problem is that'll be constant truth, guys. It's ourselves. Once we start realizing the limit to our abilities is the basic limits to our psychology. Once you get rid of that, we can do so much more. I mean, coming up from me, like this person who's very, very, very severely dyslexic, teaching people in another country, all of that only comes from changing your psychology, and you mean doing 1 bit at a time over a number of years, guys. But that's the simple process of conquering dyslexia, and that's the basic fundamental steps. If anyone tells you different, they're wrong. Alright guys, I hope we had a good one, and I'll see you all again soon.